Where do y'all be at when y'all see these hood black people that y'all scared of? Like, where are you at? Like, are you in the hood? Because if you're in the hood and some shit goes down, of course you're afraid because you don't know how the hood operates. But why would you be in the hood if you scared of hood people and you know you're not from the hood, right? You speaking on hood behavior that you do not know anything about. Did they do something, or are you just looking at them? Then if you're in a suburban establishment, you feel like hood people came all the way from the hood to go to suburban establishments and cause havoc. They just want to get they $2 margaritas like you. Oh, so when you was growing up, somebody would like start problems with you because you looked at them funny? Did they do that? Do y'all ever go to the movie theaters and see a white guy with a briefcase? Like, would you be scared, or would you just be like, oh, that's a nice white guy that got off work? What y'all need to admit is that y'all are looking at people and stereotyping based off of what people look like.
Can we all stop pretending like hood people don't scare us? So I'm in Target the other day, right? Checking out. Lines out the door. I decided to get behind this lady with a cart full of stuff and her 5 kids. The whole time, she's checking out. She's screaming out her 5 kids. The other little girl, head shaved. She's talking about, we have to go get her lice medication. I'm like, okay. The whole time I knew all her kids' names by the end of her checkout. I only remember Jason Brittany though. Her and her friend that she was checking out was clearly on drugs. So I know my face was stank. So I'm staring at her and I'm like, you know what, ma'am, hurry up. And she turns and looks at me because I didn't know what she was going to do. She turns and looks at me and she says, "Isn't this cute?" I go, "Mm-hmm." And she's, "Yeah, get it, $5. Y'all was scared. I was scared of her son. I was scared of her kids. I was scared of the little girl's life. I was scared of everybody. So, yes, hood people scare us. Let's stop pretending.
Los Angeles a month. By 1970, there'll probably be 1 million Negroes in this city. And I know that people are concerned about this. They may not talk about it very often, but I certainly heard them shudder in church when he said there'd be 1 million Negroes in Los Angeles.
We shudder because we're saying, in essence, the majority of these people are not like we are. And we felt that maybe some of us felt we left this out because we were getting away from this problem. We are part of this exodus too. But we are a little maybe embarrassed by the fact that here we're going to have a mass element come in that's going to create a tremendous social problem in the community to which we find a great deal of difficulty in relating to.
Well, I don't want to sound like a do-gooder, because I really am not, and I'm somewhat of a snob. But I do think that with these people coming in who are not our intellectual equals, nor are they of our sociological bracket, they're not to be a handicap to us. They'll find their own level. Now, I do sound like a snob, but I don't mean it this way. But they're used to living a certain way, and they too might rise up above their origin, and might one day be our associates.
The whole tone of this meeting is we're setting ourselves up as little puppet Jesuses. We can't help anyone else until we help ourselves. The Negro has had 2 professions, his own medicine, dentistry, law, or psychiatry, and he's had the profession of being a Negro. And many of us have come out here to escape from this second profession of being a Negro. And we are out here a while, and we're working in our own field, and then we find out that here these same problems are falling on the heels of 1,600 Negroes a month that come into Los Angeles. Now this gives us problems. It's our own view. It's our own identifying with these Negroes that are coming in with their carpetbags that causes us problems.
This is our basic embarrassment that we as Negroes have. We want to live together, yet we want to sort of scatter to the far winds and live amongst white people. We are brought up in terms of that. To have a dark skin, to be a Negro, there is something wrong with it. And if you take a child and raise him, a very impressionable child, and have him grow up in an atmosphere where your color of skin is something that is looked down upon, that there is something wrong with you, that you are not, you don't have the abilities of other people. Even no matter how much education, no matter how much training, etc. you have, a lot of these impressions stay with you.
I care 100% about marriage. I care about the future of black people. And this is why this information is so distressing. It's like when we look at the black community as a whole and we look at all the statistics, the fact that 30% of, black people get married, 70% do not. 70% are, of our children are being raised in single parent homes. And when we look at single parent homes, it literally floods every single problem, from creating more single parent homes to people being in jail, to people having problems, to poverty, all these other types of things. Everything goes back to the family, to marriage. This has been an issue with black people for a long period of time. Now, when we look at the differences between what we would call today the hood black people and the suburban black people, again, we're seeing the dividing line. This is one of those things where I'm always trying to explain that many black people come from a situation where someone was the person that stood in the gap for the future generations. I know that I am here because my grandmother on my father's side stood in the gap. She refused to not allow her children to have the best. She told me stories about when she was trying to get her 4 children to go to college, how her friends told her, no, why are you doing that? Negroes ain't never going to be able to do more than A, B, or C. When she fought for her family to make sure that it wasn't split up, although the man that she married, my grandfather on that side, he was divorced, but he had another family before, he had my father and my aunts. And through their decision to stay together, they created a brand new situation in existence, because my mother, her mom was a single mom. And my aunt from that side had a different father than my mother. So my mother had no understanding on how to be in a relationship, on how to be married, and how to stay married. But my father did. And in their particular marriage, my father fought more for the marriage and put up with a lot more in the marriage in order to make sure that me and my sister were protected and only saw marriage. Now, of all of my cousins, me and my sister were the only ones to get married. My sister is still married. I was married for 18 years, and I was with my ex even before that, several more years. And I hope one day to be married again. But my other cousins, they don't really care to be married. Marriage is not their concern. They don't see how it would have helped them at all in their life. We have to understand that our thoughts and our beliefs and what we see dictates the future. As I was doing this study and finding different videos talking about hood people, because we're talking about hood people here in relationship to marriage. We're not talking bad about them in any way or whatever and all this other kind of stuff. We're talking about in relationship to marriage. Many of them have never seen a 2-parent household. They don't understand it. They don't understand what the purpose of it is. And this is why I'm always saying that for those people, they have to immerse themselves in heavy study in order to understand. It's just like with my mother. You can be thrown in that environment. You can be in it, but you don't understand it. You don't understand how you're supposed to ebb and flow. You don't understand that you're supposed to be working with your husband or your wife. You don't understand it because you've never seen it. And the bottom line is, once you're in it, you have to fight for it. Every day you have to fight for it, because the world is going to try to take it apart. And I'll be honest with you, we know that from a spiritual perspective, the devil is going to do everything that he can to tear it apart. And with me, I thought I had it. I thought, wow, I come from a 2-parent household. My ex-wife came from a 2-parent household. I thought we got this. But there was a lot of things that we allowed to slide on both sides. And that caused, the divorce, right? But when we start to think about a lot of the problems that we have when it comes to dating and relationships, a lot of the time, the elephant in the room when it comes to black people, if you've never heard that term, the elephant in the room, is just the problem that nobody wants to talk about. I used to talk about it a lot more, but I'll be honest, I stopped talking about it as much because it causes so much pain among black people. Because when I talk about it, people will say, "Oh, Jay, you're being elitist. You're walking in elitist ways, and you're speaking in a way that you're basically demeaning other black people." But I don't see it that way. We have to look at it from a perspective of what works and what doesn't. We have to look at it from a perspective of statistics. When you look at two people who are married and they make that strong decision to stay together, we see their children doing better. We see them both do well economically, because even if the average salary in America is $50,000, two people at $50,000 has a $100,000 income. When you start to talk about everything from people being able to take off to go grab kids and, everything as far as Christmas is, the whole 9 yards, I could go on and on and on. But what you see is that's a better environment. The children tend to be happier and whole if the parents are healthy. So we always have to add that, because there's always somebody that's going to try to say, well, I knew a whole lot of people that was married, but blah, 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 but they weren't happy, and this and this and this, and it hurt the children. Because, again, that's pain. That's pain. It's like you're trying to find that excuse. In general, that's why I say we're talking about in generalizations here. And we're talking about when you're walking love, because, again, you're supposed to be walking like God, you're supposed to be walking like Jesus. So we're talking about walking in love here, okay? And so when you start talking about that type of marriage, it's going to bless you, and it's going to bless everybody, again, attached. And see, what really happened was there was groups of black people throughout history in America that figured life out. So like in that last particular video, these black people have figured life out. Even when you're sitting in the room, the way that the people are speaking, the fact that they're all dressed well, the fact that they're talking about this, and even one lady said it, we are in this place of intellectual thought. We're not just going off of our emotions. We're not just going off of a fleeting feeling. One of the things that they found that is in direct correlation to economics is someone's ability to deny themselves pleasure at the moment. One of the things that you see within almost all people who struggle with money is that they have a problem with this. When they see something that they want, they don't have patience to get it over time. They want it right now or as close to immediate as possible. So what do? They sit around, as soon as they get their paycheck, they go spend it. One of the things that my father taught me is I spent a lot of time, growing up under him, and he actually has several apartments and other, rental properties. So I was always going with him to pick up rent. And he told me, he said, I have to pick up the rent on Friday night. And I would be like, why, are you going Friday night? And he told me, he said, because they're going to spend it. He was like, if I come there up there on Sunday or on Monday, it's gone. He said, sometimes Saturday morning, I'll be okay. But he was like, by the time Monday comes, I'm going to be listening to an excuse where they're going to be like, oh, Mr. Stovall, oh, man, stuff happened, and oh, yeah, man, and, I get you next week. I get you next week. And it will always be an excuse because they could not deny themselves one more beer or, let's go out to this party or let me buy this girl a drink. They couldn't deny it. It was like this really weird thing when it came to discipline. And that's why I'm always telling you one of the biggest issues with relationships, believe it or not, is discipline. the ability to wait, the ability to understand that you should do A over B and be okay with that decision and not feel internally like you're slighted. So when you start to look at what was going on for that last video in Las Vegas, these people kind of understood that. They didn't understood it at the granular level like we do now, but they understood it at a higher level, and it made them seem like snobs. And in some of the other videos, again, you see a similar thing. You see this concept where the black person that's out there in the suburbs, or they've had a different type of life, when they get around people that haven't had that same level of understanding about life, now they're saying, okay, we're afraid of them, or we're worried about this and all this other kind of stuff. But when we really look at it, these people, this 70%, that is what is defining what black culture is. That is what the world believes black people act like. And what this other group, is trying to say, this more suburban black is trying to say, they're trying to encourage that 70% to change their ways. To say, hey, what you're doing is not helping you. It's not blessing you. It's not taking you to a better level. I've spoken to you many times about, the 80s. Remember, my background is in media. For those people that don't know, my background is in media and film. And one of the things that was going on in the 80s, and this was a big deal for Oprah Winfrey and for, Bill Cosby, no matter how you feel about Bill Cosby now because of all the controversy. But those black people were the controllers at the time of black media. You had the Oprah Winfrey Show, you had the Cosby Show, you had a different world. And they made a conscious effort, even Martin made a conscious effort to try to showcase middle-class black people. Okay, middle class and up. They never wanted to showcase what was going on in the hood. And Oprah went as far not to even allow rappers on her show. Because what she was trying to do was she was trying to project an image to black people and trying to say, I want you all to come up to this level. Because if you see this other thing, and that's the only thing you see, you're going to desire that. And you're going to seek for that, and you're going to do everything you can in order to get that life, because that is how humans work. All right? I mean, advertisement works, and television shows are advertisement. Movies are advertisement. Even social media is advertisement. So what you see, you want to strive for. You want to hold. You want to obtain, right? If you did not know that a Mercedes-Benz was worth anything, if you had never seen a commercial, if you had never seen anybody drive one, you wouldn't want it. Your desire to want it comes from the advertisement, directly or indirectly, that you have seen and witnessed in your life, right? And so that's what was going on. But what happened was, as we went into the 90s, and you had Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, basically, I'm just being real with you, a lot of white executives noticed they could make big money off of black people. And the biggest hustlers were almost always from the quote unquote hood. And that is when we start to get an influx of hood films. And right after that, we started to get another break, which was all about the independent woman, starting actually with Sex and the City, and then you had Girlfriends. So Sex and the City was the white version, Girlfriends was the black version. Okay, and I think it was produced by Kelsey Grammer. Again, it's a white person. Not understanding what the black community is trying to do. So over time, living single. So over time, we went from this concept of trying to uplift, of trying to showcase black relationships, whether, like I say, whether it was a Parenthood, Family Matters, Cosby Show, to a whole nother movement where now we're encouraging to see the 70%. We want to see the 70%. We want to see the people that we have not seen. And I'm not even going to lie, from an artist's perspective, it was refreshing to see how somebody else is living. But the problem was it started to overflow. And now people could find their lane, which they couldn't find before. Before, a child growing up, if they wanted to see black people, they had to look at black people in uplift. But now, at the end of the 90s, you could look at black people and see them in their detriment. Things that was going to hurt them more than it was going to bless them. And see, that is really where the problem comes in. And even now, as I talk to this, I know some people are going to feel pain by what I'm saying. They're going to be mad at what I'm saying. But I'm not trying to say it as though these quote unquote people out here in the suburbs got every answer, because they don't. Because one of the things I've learned about being in the suburbs, and I was kind of at the edge of the hood in the suburbs growing up, is that a lot of these kids out in the suburbs are actually, in some ways, they do a different type of crime. They do a different type of problem, okay? And so it's kind of hard to go into that in this particular video, but I am saying that they are not innocent. I do want to make sure I put that out there. They are not innocent. But what we notice is that when you start to look at this 70%, the problems of it, and that's why I even lined it up with the Bible. If you take the Bible and you actually push it into that 70%, it'll fix most of their problems. Because a lot of the problems come in when you deny what's good and you allow yourself to come up with an excuse for what you know is good and even what God says is good. Like marriage. Like I said, a lot of people, once you look at everything that comes from a good, healthy marriage environment, you're going to create better. You're going to have more money. You're going to have more things. And if you have more money, you can invest. So you can get even more money. Because see, that's the trick. If you have one house and $50,000 is enough money to take care of that entire household. Let's just use that as an example. You have $50,000. That takes care of that whole household. I don't know how it's doing it, but people are doing it. They're making it work. So now you take that and you add in another income of $50,000. That full $50,000 is not really going to be used for the working of the household. A lot of that money, because think about it, if I'm already got the utilities paid. If the water's coming on, me adding, coming into living in your house, I'm going to add maybe another $10 to the water bill. When you start to talk about phone plans, you usually get a deal once you get a second, third, and fourth phone. So people give you deals to be in family. You don't waste as much food because now both 2, 3, 4 people are eating. So now what happens is you might use 10,000 of that 50,000 in order to add the extra person, but the other 40,000 can be used to investments. And now you use that money in investment and you're actually able to go to the next level. This is another reason why married couples do better. They do better economically because it's just logical. But if you have two totally different households and one person's living over here, one person's living over there, they need their full $50,000 just to run their household. And that's when black people get into the point of starting to scheme and do different things like that, like borrow cable from somebody else and share this and share Hulu accounts and Netflix accounts and stuff like that, when it all should have just been wrapped up in one. But I think that as we start to deal again with the top level of the relationships, again, that's where a lot of the argument is. When black women, quote unquote, successful, and when I'm saying successful here, I'm just really talking about, somebody that is making 55,000 and up, type of person, somebody who's trying to be on the right path, somebody who has not really fell 100% into no more than one baby mama type of, environment. So when we start to talk about successful black women, and this is not uber successful, this is that successful, like I talk about, that could technically be $50,000, right? So when you're starting to talk about those women and above, you're basically dealing with women that really what they're saying is that they want a man that's going to come in, that's going to marry them, take care of them, be with them, be there for their children, blah, 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 and move to the top level. And it's the same thing with men. When men are saying, okay, I cannot find women, they're saying the same thing. Because a lot of the women, when they, have come from environments where their mom was stressed out and their grandmom was stressed out, now everybody is frustrated and nobody really knows, okay, what to do in an environment. All of this trickles down. It trickles down to the very essence of what people are wanting in relationships. And they're wanting to have that security, of the other side. And because you have a lot of people that really still have not lined up with the concept of marriage, with the concept of discipline, of the concept of, just doing what is right and doing what is needed and following in maturity and actually in constant growth in order to be better, that is why there's so many problems within the Black community. And when you have people that are still out here seeking love, and so sooner or later, they're going to make mistakes, so to speak, and then they can end up with a worse situation where now you have a child and you brought a child in the mix of the drama. We can see why we have so many problems, right? Let's throw all that out for a second and let's just talk about for me. For me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to understand a better road. A road that will give you closer to what you want out of life. You want money as a Black man? Cool, get married. You want your legacy, your children to be about something? Get married, take care of those children. If you get a divorce, if she leaves you, try to get custody of your children. You want to make more money, start a business, take some kind of class, in order to better yourself. I don't care if it's a trucking class. I don't care if it's a real estate class. Get yourself lined up with what is good and what works. You do not have to cheat people. You do not have to, be hustling on a grind to the point where you actually are hurting people. You can literally do it the right way, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there, because the only difference really between most people, like I told you, is you're dealing with, first of all, you got this discipline thing that a lot of us have to work on. And then after that is really the head start. That's it. Like, a lot of people don't like this concept of college. And I know a lot of guys, haven't been to college and they don't even really like always talking to Black people that's been to college. But when you look at the average, person that went to college, especially, around my generations, which would be, mid 30s, 40s, 50s. When you start to deal with those people make on average $15,000 more than, the people that didn't. Over the course of 10 years, that's $150,000. That's huge. And yet I sacrificed 4 years of my life and even came out with student loan debt. But that does not line up with the benefit that I've gotten from actually going to college from 18 to 23. And see, those are the things that people are trying to tell you. Those are the things that we're trying to help you get better. It's the same thing when I tell women, if you're sitting out here and every single man you've dated has been bad, and then I'm telling you to date this other guy, and you're like, well, he's boring, he's not my type. He's this, he's that. Who are you helping? I'm trying to help you. Stand in the gap for your daughter. Stand in the gap and say, look, it's okay if I don't 100% all be excited about this man. Okay, at least I know my daughter will have a better life. If you're tall and you're like, man, I'm 5'6", I'm 5'7", I could barely get a man, or even taller than that. I'm 5'10". The worst thing you can do really is marry a guy that's 6'4", because then your daughter is going to have it worse off. If you're 5'10" as a woman and you marry a guy that's 5'8", your daughters are going to be shorter and your sons are going to be taller. You can stand in the gap. One of the issues that we have is we have so much selfishness, and we're trying to blame it on either side. But it really boils down, like I say, to that little edge of I want what I want. And in order for you to get to that place, and see, again, that's that underlying argument that's being said, but it's not being said. when you start to look at this quote unquote average person in the suburbs, they're willing to wait for what they want and to plan for what they want, and even sometimes not get it in their generation. But this other 70%, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's really in every culture. This is not just in the black culture, but it's really in every culture. When you get to people that struggle, they're struggling because they want everything now. It is the desire to want it now. It is a desire to say, why am I waiting? Why do I have to go through this? And that's why I'm always talking about the plan. The plan. And that's why a lot of women, what you're looking for is a man that can truly lead. Because he's going to have what? A plan. He's going to be a man on, he's a train. He's going down the train tracks. And he has a plan. That's how he can go. That's how he's moving forward. Because he has the plan. So I'm not trying to make this video about economics. What I'm trying to make it about is a mindset. And it has to be an understanding of the mindset. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember, every other Thursday, we do Thursday Talks. So come out for Thursday Talks. That's when we just sit around on a Zoom live and we actually have conversation. But until then, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.